Hey guys, thanks for tuning in for your lesson on the First Great Awakening and the Enlightenment. So let's get started. Religious leaders wanted to spread religious feeling throughout the growing colonial population. In the late 1730s, ministers began holding revivals, which were emotional gatherings where people came together to hear sermons. Many American colonists experienced a great awakening in their religious lives. And this Great Awakening, which is known as a religious movement that swept through the colonies in the 1730s and 40s, changed colonial religion, and it also affected social and political life. Jonathan Edwards. He was from Massachusetts and was one of the most important leaders of the Great Awakening. His dramatic sermons told sinners to seek forgiveness for their sins or face punishment in hell forever. And he wrote his famous sermon, which is Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God. And it taught that only the will of God can save the soul of people. He was credited with preaching the First Great Awakening sermon. He called for a return to the faith, and people began to flock to hear his powerful sermons and believed people in New England were becoming, people in New England were becoming too concerned with worldly things. And so that is what moved him. The Great Awakening drew people of different regions and classes and races all together. Women, members of minority groups, and poor people often took part in services. Ministers from different colonies met and shared ideas with one another, and this represented one of the few exchanges between all the colonies. So, the Great Awakening promoted ideas that may have also affected colonial politics, and sermons about the spiritual equality of all the people led some colonists to begin demanding more political equality, and that is something you really need to grasp. So it promoted new ideas, new political ideas, and sermons taught on spiritual equality of all the people, women, minorities. It was the first event that took place on a national level. Colonists began to see themselves not as individual colonies, but as one large group on a continent. Because there was no similar religious movement in Europe at the time, colonists began to see themselves as being maybe different from England. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the Enlightenment. During the 1600s, European scientists began to better understand the basic laws that govern nature. And so these ideas began to permeate into the colonies. And many colonists at this time were also influenced by what has been coined the Enlightenment. And this movement, which took place during the 1700s, spread the idea that reason and logic could improve society. Some Enlightenment thinkers began to believe that there was a social contract between government and citizens. Enlightenment thinkers formed ideas about how government should work, and they based many of their ideas on the concept of using reason to best achieve virtue and social order. John Locke, who was a philosopher during this time, thought that people had natural rights such as equality and liberty, ones they were born with and that was given to them by God. One judge, William Blackstone, who published a book describing the system of English law, and his ideas about natural laws and rights became influential in colonial legal education. Ideas on the scientific revolution and the Enlightenment eventually influenced colonial leaders' desires for, here we go again, self-government. And this is a quote from John Locke, and it says, "All mankind, being all equal and independent, no one ought to harm another in his life, health, liberty, or possessions." And you're going to hear more of John Locke when we discuss the Declaration of Independence and the move toward the American Revolution. So how did new ideas influence colonial society? That is something I want you to understand. They led to the desire for political equality and encourage discussion about political and social issues. I also want you to be able to describe the Great Awakening in your own words. So you're going to write this down and bring this into class. So you will show it to me and we will discuss it. The book definition is simply a religious movement that swept through the colonies in the 1730s and 1740s. But what you need to do is stop this, pause it, rewind, and review a little bit about what we just discussed and add that to your own definition. And lastly, you're going to answer the question, how did John Locke's beliefs influence colonial society? You're going to answer that and you're going to bring that to class. All right, guys, I'm looking really forward to our class time together. Have a great day. Bye.